Kia ora everyone, welcome to Creative Mornings, and it's a special edition of Creative Mornings today because we are in collaboration with Slush'D Wellington, which is having their event this afternoon essentially, but it's kicking off with us as a little bit of a starter. So, tēnā koutou katoa, tuarua ki ngā mate haere 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 atu rā. E mihi ana te mana whenua o ngā te tō me taranaki whānui. Kia tātou e tau nei kia ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So just acknowledging everyone that has come before us, everyone that is in the space today, and acknowledging the mana whenua of the land. So welcome. We've got a wonderful panel discussion for you this morning, and it's a little bit different format to what you're used to. Hands up who's it's the first time for you to come to Creative Mornings today. Oh, fantastic. Well, wonderful to have some new faces, and I hope you enjoy your time. You won't notice anything different then. For those of you who have been here before, usually obviously we have a single speaker, sometimes a duo, so we're especially lucky today with three wonderful speakers. Before I kind of kick into that, I just wanted to hand it over to some of the team from Slush'D Wellington so that they can kind of share a little bit more about Slush'D.
Kia ora. My name is Stephen Cummings, and I'm a professor at Victoria University Wellington, but also the director of the Atom Innovation Space, Te Kahua Te Ao. And what we do is we support university students to continue their entrepreneurial journeys. We're so excited that Caitlin, who is one of our Atom students, is here on the panel today. But we also really support young enterprise, so it's great to see Elise, and I know that you've been down at the Atom as well, and fabulous to have Lambrini and others involved. So Slush'd is an entrepreneurship festival. Our Slush'd Wellington has a real emphasis on young people, on rangatahi, and what they can do to kind of help continue build the energy of the sort of people that you hear talking at Creative Mornings. I mean, Wellington has the most amazing entrepreneurial community, the most amazing creative community. And so when we put in a bid to host a Slush'd festival, we really wanted to lean into that. And we're so delighted that we have Natalie here from Finland, who's going to tell you a little bit more about Slush'd as an international organization. But our pitch to Slush'd was that we really wanted to try and connect those young entrepreneurs with the kind of sort of not so young, but still quite young in my, from my point of view, entrepreneurs who sort of make Wellington what it is today. The question that I get asked the most, though, is that what the heck? What's Slush'd? Why are there Finnish people interested in innovation in Aotearoa, New Zealand? And I was going to answer that question, but I'm so delighted that Natalie Lingwood from Slush'd, one of our ambassadors from Finland, has fought the jet lag and has got up really early in the morning, and she's here. So I'm going to hand over to Natalie just to tell you just a little bit of the story behind Slush'd and why they're here supporting us in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Natalie? Kia ora.
Hi, kia ora everyone. My name is Natalie. So yeah, you heard from Stephen that I am actually from Finland. And we have in Finland this massive startup festival of 13,000 people. For startups and entrepreneurs, and our mission basically is to help and create founders that change the world. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's what it all boils down to. So we are a non-profit and we are student-led. So we really focus on making the impact and making sure that the founders are the focus of our events. After COVID, we realized that, in order to really help founders, we really want to get to meet all the people from around the world. So we actually represent the full extent of human heterogeneity in the startup ecosystem. So what that means is that we want to find people that solve the problems that they themselves face. You guys are going to be solving problems that are relevant to you here in New Zealand, and other people from around the world will be solving problems that they solve as well. So we are in 15 different countries around the world at the moment. Next year we will be in 25, so we're rapidly expanding. In 2030 we should be in 100 different communities around the world. Why are we actually doing this? What's the kind of reason? We want to find these nascent ecosystems. So startup ecosystems where there's definitely something going on. There's a community of startups, definitely. However, there's a lot more potential that we see in the kind of community. So I think one of the strengths of the New Zealand startup ecosystem is definitely the young people. So that's why we partnered with the Victoria University in Wellington to actually create an event for young people. And it's so great to have young enterprise here as well, and just see the potential of the future of the startup ecosystem in New Zealand. So we are non-profit, so we want to make sure that everything that we do has the biggest impact possible. So hopefully you feel that today, and it's great to start off with this Creative Mornings bit of them.
Fantastic. Round of applause for Natalie from Finland. Woo!
Oh, sorry, Christine. I had one job. I didn't do it. If you're not already registered for Slush, just hit the website, Slush'D Wellington. You'll Google it. You'll find it. We've kind of been over. We have nearly 600 people registered this afternoon, so it's going to be pretty epic. Come for part of the day. Come for the whole day. It starts at 2 p.m. Rutherford House down in Bunny Street, opposite Parliament. So if you're not registered, please do come along. Tell people about it. If you can't make it for the day, come to the after party at 6 o'clock at Rutherford House today. So sorry, one job to do. Thanks. Cool.
Fantastic. So I guess back to our usual programming. Each month for Creative Mornings we have a theme, and for this month our theme is simplicity. So I'm just going to read you quickly the little theme description. In the design traditions of Scandinavian and Japanese minimalism, the paring down of possessions creates a greater sense of tranquility and ease. Simplicity invites us to imagine how rich we might feel when we make do with less. Where can you exercise restraint and streamline excess? How will you find clarity amongst chaos? Our Gothenburg chapter chose this month's exploration of simplicity. And we've got Jessica, how would I say this? Jumping illustrated the theme. So, too many things to hold in all that. We've got a goodbye round of applause for our global sponsor, MailChimp. So they'll no longer be our global sponsor going forward. We'll still be using MailChimp as our email engine for the time being, but you'll notice I'll kind of drop off in terms of our logos that we're displaying. But that's okay, so a little round of applause, goodbye round of applause for MailChimp. Woo! They've been supporting us for 15 years. Pretty wild. Just a reminder for next month, October, oh my goodness, a year. Bring a friend, make a friend, tell your mates about the Creative Mornings events. The next one will be towards, I think it's like the 26th or whatever the Friday is in October at the end. So going back to our sort of usual end of month sessions next in October. Shout out to our volunteers and our supporters and our sponsors. So we've got All Good Oat Milk with delicious oat milk this month. $2.57 for the beautiful space they provide every month. We've got Sarah on photography. Where are you, Sarah? Kia ora. Hype Entertainment. So we've got one camera here. We've got Andy. We've got where are you? Are you on this list? Ethan as well. Paper People Pixels. So we've got Faye somewhere drawing away with our live illustration. And Colourcraft for the name tags. I forgot to put a name tag on today. My name's Christine. We got Libertine Bleen Teas, Coffee Supreme to keep you caffeinated and awake this morning, and Tippity's Water for a little bit of extra pizzazz to your water, Fix and Frog Peanut Butter, Wellington Sourdough for your gorgeous toast this morning, and Six Barrel Soda for our speaker gifts. Shout out to our newest sponsor. So these guys just approached us out of the blue and decided they wanted to provide us with breakfast biscuits every morning. They're not really breakfast biscuits, but you can't argue that. They make a good breakfast. So follow them on Instagram. They're at BadBakerNZ. And they're working on their website at the moment, so you should be able to shop online for their stuff soon too. Shout out to our volunteers that helped me set up chairs, kitchen, make your toast, make your coffee, all that sort of jazz. This wouldn't happen without them. So yeah, amazing round of applause for them. Woo! Thank you. And follow us on the socials. Get amongst. We've also got LinkedIn, if that's more your thing, at CreativeMornings/Wellington. And we post generally about events and everything along on all of those platforms. And you can use the hashtags for Global Creative Mornings, and then hashtag CM Simplicity for this month's theme. And without further ado, I'm going to drag my chair out further, so I'm in camera again, sitting down. And grab my microphone. And we're going to get stuck into it. So I'd like to introduce my beautiful panelists this morning. We've got Caitlin. Give us a wave, Pen. Elisa. And Holly. And I want to start off by just giving you the opportunity to do a quick intro, a self-intro, and then we'll jump into some questions. So let's grab a mic. Is it on? Yes. Okay. There we go.
Thank you, Christine. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Caitlin. I am a fifth-year landscape architecture master's student at Victorian University. I am also the founder of Healing Architects. So Healing Architects is an all-in-one educational platform for creatives, and we're all about trying to help creatives in their pursuit for success without sacrificing their well-being. So I'm pretty fresh within the entrepreneurial scene, and I'm really grateful that Christine has given me this opportunity to speak to you all today. And I'm excited to talk a bit more. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Elisa and I'm a Year 12 student from Wellington Girls College, and I've got a lot of interest that business and entrepreneurship has been one of them for a very long time now. I've run a few different businesses and I'm now with the Young Enterprise Scheme, and that's how I got this opportunity through Lambruni. And so running a few different businesses, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, and so I love joining the community of other young founders and opportunities like Slush'D. So yeah.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Holly Norton. I am a regenerative designer, I guess is my current job title. I'm sort of post-startup. I sold my startup last year. I sort of handed it over to volunteer in New Zealand. So I've hung around in startup space for a long time, since I was sort of like late teens through now being 31. I'm officially the older voice on the panel. Now my new role is kind of looking after almost like 7 mini startups, but more part of the community regenerative design corporate world. So I guess I'm here to add a slightly different lens. But yeah, excited to be here with all this beautiful energy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for introducing. So we'll kick it off, starting with Caitlin. Caitlin, can you describe therapeutic landscape architecture and tell us how important the notion of simplicity is to it?
Thank you. I don't know if that's Holman.
Hello. Oh no, I guess it's on. So therapeutic landscape architecture is a nature-based design, and it's been scientifically tested globally, and it's been shown to improve physical and mental well-being. It's been applied within a range of medical facilities around the world, and it's shown to help patients heal faster, as well as support the well-being of the staff and their whānau who come to support their sick loved ones. The thing it does best is help reduce stress. And so that's what I've been focusing on for my master's thesis. I've been looking at how therapeutic landscapes can be applied within urban settings like Wellington, and how, we can help reduce stress of our city goers. I guess the thing at its essence, therapeutic landscapes, is very simple because it takes us out of those busy and stressful environments and puts us in a space which is relaxing, makes us feel at ease, which is very simple at its core. So I think that we, sorry, so was it simplicity?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that therapeutic landscapes, as I said, at its core, it's very simple because we as humans, we've evolved across thousands of years with our environments and as a part of our environments. And we're at a stage now where we are designing the spaces around us. And the thing is, our bodies haven't evolved to, be able to function in these spaces. And so what therapeutic landscapes does is it puts us back in those areas which our bodies are designed for.
Fantastic. That's such a beautiful sentiment. And I think trying to weave that into like your own lifestyle as well is a really powerful thing. Elisa, so you didn't necessarily touch on this in your intro, but perhaps you can give a brief overview before you jump into the question as well. So you just kind of decided to personally save the kakabeak, which is a plant, from its near extinction status. So it could be described as the simplest solution to a very complicated problem. What made you decide to take a straightforward approach, and do you feel like you succeeded?
One of the businesses that I've kind of been running is Anivo Plants. So in 2020, I started playing around with some native seeds, and so just collected from a local suburb and trying to grow them and propagate them myself. And then I had some good success and I had the opportunity to meet a lady who ran a nursery up north, and she gifted me some kakabeak seeds and some dwarf hawthorn seeds. So kakabeak are one of Aotearoa's most endangered native plants, and there were only 148 wild ones left in the country. And so when I had the opportunity to have these seeds, I grew them myself. I ended up designing and building a greenhouse with my dad over lockdown. And then we grew and sold over 300 kakabeak and 400 dwarf hawthorn. And I think, in terms of our mission, which was just to kind of spread, firstly, awareness over our endemic flora and fauna in this country, which a lot of countries don't have that privilege of having. We have birds and some countries don't really get to experience that. So I guess just educating people in my community and just around the country. I had customers, and I saw customers were chatting to me with photos of their kakabeaks, which are now blooming, now seeding, and that developed a passion in them to go and try themselves to buy and grow their own native plants. And so I think we did succeed in terms of our mission, just to get people more interested and more aware of the beautiful country that we have.
Yeah, when I first heard your story, when we first met in the cafe, I was absolutely blown away by what you'd done. Just kind of you and your dad, really, building and growing, and it was absolutely amazing. Holly, you have done an incredible amount of work within the public and the private sectors while maintaining what most would view as a particularly simple lifestyle. Can you speak to that and let us know what perspective such a lifestyle has brought you?
Kia ora. Christine sent me this question and I laughed initially because I was just getting off a plane from Samoa and I was like, what? I live the most extravagant lifestyle. This was my first international flight for many, many years. But Christine kind of talked through and she was like, no, there's a whole bunch of things that you're doing that are quite simplistic. You spent several years living off your bicycle, living in houses, and you spent several years basically living off next to nothing, being sort of fully vegan and buying things from refilleries, and whilst kind of running a startup and, very few focuses on life. And I was like, I guess that's really true. But for me, I've never really set out to live a simplistic lifestyle. I think when you're involved in regenerative design, you end up being obsessed with the outcome. And when you're obsessed with the outcome of something, it changes how much emphasis you put on the stuff that you don't need. And I think many of you guys in the sort of design creative world have probably had a similar experience where if you go out and you're focused on the output of something, like I need to get this task done or I need to create this thing, you bring a whole load of things with you that are kind of distracting from the actual point. And when you do a really good process is when you've really thought about, okay, now strip back everything. What is it that I really, really need? What is it that I like, the core of what I want to achieve, and then what does that process look like to get there? So I think I spend my whole time at work doing that. As a regenerative designer, a lot of people kind of come to me in my role with ideas, and I kind of go, oh, that's great, you've got this amazing idea, we're going to build this huge building, and we're going to fill it with these exciting things, but let's just stop for a moment. What are we trying to solve here? What is the core problem? Who's involved in that problem? What are their needs? How do they need to feel? And often you come up with quite a different solution. And then I think for my life, that's just what's ended up happening. The choice to cycle around the country wasn't that I was like, I'm going to minimize everything. And I've definitely done that earlier in my career. I've kind of gone, I'm going to be really minimal. I'm going to try and be fully vegan. I'm going to try and cut out all waste from my life. But that often made me make decisions that were actually more complex. You buy the expensive processed product that's shipped in from Japan because it's the better sustainability option in theory, but really I could have eaten this like locally sourced something down the road or a waste product. And yeah, same with things like cycling. Actually, I really enjoyed cycling and I wanted to see the world, and I needed to save some money somehow for doing the kind of work that I was doing, and people needed houses to be housed at, and I couldn't really afford to live in mine. So it's like, great, I'll just hop around and live in their houses for a while. So you end up with a really different outcome that kind of feeds the stuff you want to do. And then that freed up, I didn't need rent money, so I could do the kind of work I wanted to do. So yeah, kind of by accident, simple, but I'm enjoying it. So.
I guess for a little bit of context, I've known Holly many years and have lived with her before as well. So seeing kind of firsthand some of that work that you've been doing, I guess, personally. We'll jump back to Caitlin. So Healing Architects promotes mental well-being through positive environmental factors. Does sustainability influence how the environment affects our mental health?
Yes, thank you, Christine. Definitely. So our environments directly impact our physical and mental well-being. If you think about it, unsustainable environments, they often look like, polluted, unhygienic, crowded environments, and that's not a space where people can be healthy or they can thrive. Sustainable environments, on the other hand, it's about providing for all living things, and by providing for different ecosystems, other forms of life, that helps heal ourselves. So, thinking about if we have lots of trees, if we have fresh water, we are provided with shade and oxygen, and these are all really important things for our mental well-being. I think just thinking about with Healing Architects, that's part of, I guess, what I wanted to bring to light, because a lot of people think of sustainability as just the longevity of our planet, but they don't think about how sustainability is essential to our mental well-being as well. So I think, as I was saying, sustainability it's more than just the environment. It's about how are we putting the care into our spaces around us so we can thrive.
It's a beautiful answer. Elisa. So Invivo, there we go. I keep swapping the letters around in my brain. Invivo Pots is a project clearly aimed at improving Aotearoa's sustainability. What made you decide that would be your current endeavour, and how big a difference do you think it could make?
Great, thank you. So Invivo Pots is the business that I'm currently developing through the Young Enterprise Scheme, and it's a range of biodegradable plant pots made from forestry slash. So this is a business idea that I created last year while participating in some of the Girl Boss courses that actually a Young Enterprise alumni created, and I was a finalist with this idea, so I thought, maybe it has potential. And now it's an idea that I'm really excited about, as I've been working with some pretty big companies, and we're working to develop these biodegradable plant pots. And so our mission with Invivo Pots is to reduce the 350 million plastic pots used every year in Aotearoa alone. So a lot of these plants which get sold in bulk to farms or big projects all come in plastic pots, and all of these pots have to go to the landfill because of biosecurity threats, so they could have picked up diseases, and so those things are harmful to our native flora and fauna, so they just go to the landfill. And so something as like good and thoughtful as planting, especially native plants, but actually has this like horrible waste product of all these plastic pots, kind of like changes the balance. And so that's why Anivo pots has real potential to be that more environmentally friendly alternative and make the, I guess, idea of planting out just fully for the planet. Yeah.
And do you have a timeline at the moment for this project?
Yeah. So,
Just curious.
so this is quite a big project, and it's something that I'm looking to develop even after Young Enterprise. So I'm year 12 now, so I'll be working on it next year, but also years to come. I'm currently in my kind of fundraising, developing phase. So I don't know if I can pronounce the numbers, but looking to fundraise $50,000 for the development just of the prototypes, because it costs $20,000 to test the biodegradability. So it is a big project, but I'm committed to it. And I guess the idea over the business is kaitiakitanga, which is a Māori responsibility and value. And the idea is that we're not being like sustainable for ourselves. This planet is not ours. We're just borrowing it from the next generations. So I love that idea that, you know, choosing to live sustainably isn't for ourselves, because this planet is not ours. We're just borrowing it from the next generations. So this is a product which I think will help us do that. So I'm committed to following it through for as many years to come as it takes.
Fantastic. I look forward to being able to buy them, see them in the shops. Jumping over to Holly. You have worked in private sector, the government, NGOs, charities, in innovating towards sustainability and fighting climate change. In your view, what are the strengths and or weaknesses of each in creating sustainable solutions? It's a big question.
Small question. I think if we're thinking about it on that earlier point about outcomes and outputs, I think one of the challenges that we're facing, well, when I started, one of the challenges we're facing is that everyone was still getting their heads around believing whether climate change was a thing or not. One of my first roles was in government, and I had to write a paragraph about this big, a 500-page manual about, are humans actually causing climate change if we can't put our finger on it? And that was 2014. It's not even 10 years ago, which is a bit scary. But now we've moved on and everyone's kind of got their heads around, yeah, climate change is a thing, and we're all trying to respond to it and figure out different ways. I think one of the challenges that I face is that people want to do the right thing, and that's amazing, but people also often want to do the easy thing. And so when there's a solution that seems easier for us, we can get a bit fixated on it, and we put all our energy into that one thing. Like maybe it's carbon reduction, and carbon reduction is awesome. It's one of the biggest issues that we're facing is how do we mitigate our carbon. But if the only factor you're looking at in making a decision is what's the lowest carbon product, you might be overlooking a whole bunch of other factors that are actually creating issues in other places. So it's how among all of this complexity in this area that we're all new in and is terrifying, can we lift our visors a little bit and look at the solutions holistically? And that's really what regenerative design is. It's lifting up the view a little bit and looking at all aspects of business and community and people and nature and thinking about what is the best solution going to be holistically across all of these things. I think that's kind of it.
That kind of answers, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to throw it to the floor now. You've heard, I've got all my questions. I've got what I want to know. So if anyone has any questions for these folks, put your hand up, shout out. I can hand a microphone round. Oh, yep. Thank you, Holly. I'll jump up to the next one if you like.
Kia ora wahine toa. Caitlin, I wanted to ask you about the plant thing, is that mainly for big spaces rather than individual people's houses and things?
Sure. Oh, thank you. Within the context of my research, I'm looking at bigger spaces, public spaces, but it can be as small as your back garden. The essence of therapeutic landscapes is about really just removing yourself from your everyday busy context and creating kind of like a haven. It's like an escape. Some of the important factors are having, sufficient vegetation, so it attracts other forms of life, which means that you are distracted by the nature around you, and that's really important for relieving stress and mental fatigue. I guess it doesn't really matter on the size, it's more about, can you feel that you have escaped from your everyday environment? Are you kind of mentally transported into that other space? So yeah, it could be as small as your back garden. Yeah.
Wonderful. Does anyone else have any questions for the band? Yeah?
Yes, so for you, I would love to hear a little bit more about your kind of thought process behind making these sorts of businesses. You said that you have a couple different ventures, and I noticed that there was a similarity between the two that you mentioned, at least, with the plants and the biodegradability of the plant pots as well. So is this something that you're very passionate about? So how did you come up with these sorts of ideas, and were they related to each other?
So as I said, I've been passionate about business for a long time. It all kind of started when I was 12 years old, selling some succulents at my local fair, and that proved really successful. I did that for 2 years, and I'm the type of person that once I kind of succeed or reach my goal or something, I want to move on to something bigger. So that's when I learned about the native plants, and with my family, we go on a lot of bushwalks, and we experience a lot of the in Wellington, we're so lucky to have places like Otari and Zelandia, and those are places that I would see quite often. And going on road trips, I would see all the forestry slash. If you've seen that, you'll know that it's a really big issue that we're facing at the moment, and it's going to be an issue for a long time to come, as long as we have forestry, which will be in pretty much forever. And so so the native plants was something that I was passionate about, and it was a way that I thought I could make an impact, because that's something I do want to do with my life, is make an impact. And then obviously I ended up with all of these plastic pots after selling and growing. I probably went through 2,000 plastic pots that I currently just had stored in my shed. And I thought about what happens when you've got a big nursery and someone comes and buys 10,000 native plants. Because 10,000 native plants at the moment is 10,000 plastic pots, which will go to the landfill after just a single use. And we had the 1 billion tree project recently wrapping up, and 1 billion trees is 1 billion plastic pots. So it was an issue that I became aware of and thought that we needed to be finding a solution for it. So yeah.
One thing led to another, really. Yeah. Any other questions?
Can I ask you?
Yeah, go for it.
Kia ora, thank you. So I have a question for Holly, because you've got this amazing experience now. You're starting out working in government and being in the startup scene, developing, selling a startup, now looking over a large number of startups. I'd be really interested to know what advice, given your experience, you would provide to these young entrepreneurs, or any young entrepreneurs seeking to take their entrepreneurial dreams forward.
Yeah, that's always a question I hate, if I'm honest. Because I feel that, when I was starting out doing my first startup, which was called Collaborate, it was a volunteer matchmaking platform, and very much like you, I was facing issues in my own life. I was
working for a charity that's helping refugees, and we couldn't get enough volunteers. At the same time, everybody in 2015, there was the refugee crisis and everyone wanted to help somehow. There's this big disconnect, so I was like, cool, look at the code from Tinder. Let's do Tinder, but for volunteering. Let's make it work, solving your own problems. And everybody had a whole bunch of advice for me, and some of it was useful and some of it wasn't. But I think times change constantly, and approaches that might have worked at one stage might not work now, and approaches that I failed at might work further down the track. And so really it isn't about doing things in the right way. My advice, and I don't feel qualified to give anybody else advice, is it's more about, and I think it's similar to the outcomes outputs thing again and my lifestyle choices, it's about finding the things that really work for you and doing it in your way, and only you can know what that way is and what that balance is. Some people can quit their job and live on next to no money. That worked for me. I could do I'm not going to have a fixed address and I'm going to float around and I'm going to live off beans and commit everything to this and be obsessed with it. But sometimes you might need a gym membership for your mental health, and that's cool. And maybe you need to have an income for that. So maybe you've got to make some slightly different choices to make your well-being function, because the only way you can change the word well is to be well in yourself and to be living your truth about what's right. And that's the same with choosing what to focus on as well. I feel like I got pulled in a lot of directions early on, trying to do what I thought other people thought was the big issue I should focus on, or where I should put my energy. And now I'm probably a horrible person to employ, because I do the things that I think are important, and I do them in the ways that I think are important. So sometimes that means leaving work early if I'm not vibing it. And sometimes that means working late because I'm really passionate and I want to get this thing done. But it's me making those choices within the day, every day, about my energy, my interests, and where I can have the biggest difference for me. Yeah. At that.
Any other questions from the audience? Great.
So for Lisa, you want $15,000 and you're a 16-year-old year 12 student. What's your plan of attack to get this $50,000 worth of capital?
Good question.
Definitely a good question. So at the moment I am working with some organizations to apply for some grants, and I've got some connections to people working through those companies that are going to help and support me a bit. But obviously at the moment I don't exactly know how I'm making that money, but for Young Enterprise I have been making, you might have seen up the front, those are my kaitiaki totes. So they're canvas supermarket bags, plastic free, that I worked with an Auckland company as just a way to start, I guess, promoting the business and the vision and the mission. And bringing in some initial funds so that I can look into co-funding, because a lot of these grants and funding options you require co-funding for. And I am asking for quite a lot of money that I don't have as a 16-year-old, so I'm working and I've got these bags so that I can look into those options, yeah.
Are you selling those bags today?
I am. So I'll be selling them today and at Slush'D. So you'll see a bunch of other Young Enterprise students. I think there's 37 teams, all with their own products that they have created themselves in their businesses, and they'll be selling them at Slush'D, and I'll be there too.
So I think that includes, from a couple of months back, if you remember the gecko grips for the socks, your sports socks. She'll be there, won't she? Yeah. So there'll be an amazing array of young entrepreneurs selling their wares. Cool.
I didn't just ask you quick.
Yeah, go for it, go.
Just a similar question, I guess, to you, Caitlin. You're really excited about your business. What can the community do to help you as you sort of start out? And I think you're finishing university this year, so how can we sort of be a part of your growth?
Yes, thank you, Stephen. Honestly, I've just started, so I'm very fresh within the space and not quite as far along as Elise is. But at the moment, I'm really just trying to build a community. So the best way people can support me is to just follow my socials, follow along with my journey, and just stay in contact. You know, it'd be lovely to talk to some of you all and exchange contact details, because as I, you know, finish my studies, I'll be able to invest a lot more time into this and begin developing my venture a lot further. So at the moment, honestly, just having people support me and just see the vision that I have for this business is the best thing you can do.
Easily done. Fantastic. We've got a couple more minutes before we wrap up, so if there's any final questions, here's your opportunity.
Could I maybe do a request on the help for my project?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So my latest project is Te Ara Kairangi, which is the big climate infrastructure build in the Hutt Valley, sort of spending up to $1 billion over 5 years to raise the stop bank, stop the Hutt flooding. But within that, there's a whole load of community and social things going on alongside. And at the moment, there's a team of 2, and we're growing like crazy to make sure all of the social and environmental things that could happen. So if you're from the Hutt Valley, or if you're running a startup locally that has something like, we're going to be probably starting a new tree nursery that needs pots, so we should talk. You know, basically, if you have some ideas that do anything to do with river health, to do with reducing waste in construction, to do with, I don't know, new materials that we could be thinking of using in our buildings, things that could help the community through a time of transition and construction, anything that sounds like it might be relevant to that, we're really open to chatting. My job literally over the next year is to get out there and start thinking about what we can do as a collection of government agencies and corporates, and first time I had a corporate job, so trying to do good in it to make that really thrive. So I would love to hear about your ideas and what you're working on too.
That's wonderful. Urina, my sister's a PhD chemist in the Hutt, so
I'm talking to her on Sunday.
great, fantastic. And Studio C is also based in the Hutt if you need some design work. Just self-promo. Fantastic. So I think that's us for today, unless there's any final cues, final thoughts? No? Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure to host these wonderful folks on the couch today. It was a great joy sort of curating this group, I think. I really, really enjoy that experience of finding the right people and putting them together in the same space and seeing what comes up. So thank you so much. And thank you to Slush'D for allowing us the opportunity to sort of collaborate and do something slightly different for Creative Mornings. It's been a bit fun, a bit different. Elsewise, there's still some coffee and toast and peanut butter and whatnot if you want to grab a snack before you go. Some of us will be kind of milling around, packing up and things if you want to have a yarn afterwards. If you're keen to volunteer for Creative Mornings, hit me up. We'll discuss that as well. Elsewise, I'll see you next month, October, I think it's 27th is the Friday, for our standard programming for Creative Mornings. A round of applause to our beautiful panellists today.